Well, today, guys, I'm so excited. I have a new friend. These conversations with friends are going to be great. I have a new friend that we're going to talk about a little bit later. But we actually have a lot in common, more than just being guitar players and musicians and pastors and leaders. We actually have a lot in common just in how we grew up in life. And so today, I'm so excited to welcome in pastor, artist, musician, entrepreneur, Travis Greene. Travis, how you doing, man?
Hey, what's up, family? Yo, man, I'm honored, man. Glad to be here with you. And yeah, man, I'm excited about the initiative and what CCLI has going on.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It was so interesting. We were talking because you and I were talking earlier before we about just our past and our history. We actually have a lot in common. First of all, we have a lot in common in the music center. Israel's a good friend of mine. And we know a lot of the same people. Then, I know a lot of the guys over at Elevation. And just so it seems like it probably were days when we were in rooms together or rooms together. And so it's been interesting. But the biggest connection is just get started with who you are as a man, as a musician. I talked about Georgia, and when you mentioned certain cities you were at, it started clicking in my head because I grew up as a military brat. So what's your history?
Yeah, born Dover Air Force Base in Delaware. From there to Ramstein, Germany for basically the first 4 years of my life. From there to Robbins Air Force Base in a military town called Warner Robins, Georgia. And then from there, most of my childhood was spent in Columbus, Georgia. And then we went back to Warner Robins, Georgia. So I'm a Georgia guy through and through. Georgia Southern University is where I met my wife. And from there to Charlotte area, I was there for several years. And then I moved from there to Columbia, South Carolina is where we started Forward City.
Okay. Well, there's a lot that happened in there that I kind of want to go to, and then we'll talk about this new project, Tent Revival, which, by the way, on the cover is fire in it, but inside the record is fire.
That's cool.
Yeah. As a musician, and I'm a producer, so there's going to be I want to get into like the weeds of the production stuff and also songwriting. But before we go there, you're a musician, man. How many instruments do you play, by the way?
I mean, it depends on who's asking. If someone who is not a musician is asking, I play like 5. If somebody who is a musician, I play 1.5. I mean, I'm a keyboardist. That's my primary. But I can get around on acoustic good enough for a show. But I'm not. I mean, I'm never gonna have a solo on guitar. I'm not that guy. I don't have the discipline for it. But keys and guitar are my dominant.
So did you? Because both of us growing up in the military, travel around. What influenced you growing up? What were your?
Well, guitar came later. Guitar came in my 20s. But keyboard was, as young as 7, 8 years old, I was playing in church for adults, So that was just, I grew up in a charismatic church, and if the keyboard player didn't make it, they called me up. I was on the bench. But then the line, what really got me into keyboard, the line for the drums was so long, man. The way I grew up, like that was just, the bench for that, it was 5 guys waiting and hoping that they could get that the drummer picked them to play for offering that week. So I'm looking over there. I'm like, man, there's way too many of y'all. I want to be active. Nobody's over here by the keyboard. Let me just watch our hands. And so that's how I got a love for that. And then John P. I literally learned off of studying his music in the early 90s, mid 90s. And so that was it. My mother was a choir director. And, I just fell in love with music. It was really gospel music. It was like oxygen in our home. So that's how I got into it.
We're definitely different age, but we grew up kind of the same way. John P. Key affected me a lot. Andre Crouch was my guy too.
Okay, yeah.
I was younger, but
Andre's before my time. I'm 38.
Yeah, you're definitely younger. But like Andre, but like John P. Like I was doing John P. when I was in high school and stuff, and that was my jam. So for you, then the keys were kind of your segue into music. When did you kind of find your voice? When were you like, man?
Later.
Really?
Later, man. I'm a late bloom on all of it. For me, it was playing keys. I thought singing was just either for ladies or for like lame guys, just being up there and singing just looked lame to me, that's just kind of the class I came from. Being a musician was cool. You can walk in, you walk up to the front, wink at the ladies, all of that stuff. So that was just always the thing. But I had a natural, like my ear, I could naturally just hear music. So I would sing around the house, but singing in public just was not the thing. Actually, just expressing myself, even in praise, just didn't seem cool. I think I had to get delivered from cool to actually be used by God. And that was probably in college. My college pastor heard me singing, just messing around. And he was like, oh man, you can really sing. You're going to do worship. You're going to lead worship. And I was like, what? And so it took really, that was basic training for me. It took a couple years for me to find my voice and my range. And then a few more years to even kind of find my style, so all of that happened in my 20s, man. Really, like, I would say from probably age 21 through 28 was kind of the development of my voice.
As you're talking, there's so many like moments, because I grew up as an athlete, and I thought playing music was lame. So I didn't get into music till I was like 19. So my wife said the night, like I didn't start, and then like 3 years later and play with DC Talk, and it's like it doesn't make sense. Like I went from 0 to 60. But even in that, I love what you said about delivering you from the cool. God delivered you from cool. So you found your voice and you start playing. When did you start saying, okay, I have an artist voice, I have something that's unique?
Well, production was first. So that's what a lot of people don't know. I produce all of them. I'm one of the producers on everything that I put out. And so every song that I've ever released, for the most part, has some of my demo in it. The guys that run with me now, they highlight and delete a lot of my work, but they'll let a few of the auxiliary work remain. And like, okay, this was good enough to still be in it. So, every now and then, okay, the acoustic wasn't bad on this, we'll keep it, but most of the stuff is getting deleted now. But at least, there's at least a pad or 2 or 3 5 in every song that I released that from the demo. And so I share that just to say I started as a producer. That was just my thing, production. Me and my Triton core used to go to work, and my floppy disk, so that's how it started, man. It was just producing and putting, doing songs for other people who were singers. And so that just naturally, was able to kind of translate to my own thing, and then honing in on writing and being a kind of a nerd with theology. It all was just a perfect mesh, of theology, philosophy, like revelations in melodic form that I'm able to already capture production wise. And then that's really the lean. I think my greatest gift is penmanship. Like I'm a writer more than I am a singer or a musician. I'm just able to allow my voice to fit in the stuff that I naturally heard. But being the most amazing singer in the room has never really been my goal. It's been being able to be relatable, for the songs to be attainable and singable. That's the goal for me, to get the room to worship. And so my voice is really just a tool in that.
I love that. And so in Atlanta, which was it was like when you were in college that you kind of started leading worship?
Yeah, I started leading worship, and then just kind of making music at the house, before The Hill, which has Made a Way and Intentional on it. That's probably my 5th album. Before that, there were other albums that I was just doing at the house or doing for my local city, and selling out the trunk. All of those things, I did, going around to youth camps, whether it's 30 people, 50 kids, those days, man, I wouldn't change for the world. I think seeing deliverance at a small scale really, I think, prepared me, equipped me for everything that I do at a major scale. And just gave me a love for the raw. Like I'm like how you see like KD or one of those guys return to records, like they just love the game. It's not even about the arena for them. It's just a love for the game. That's how I am with worship. I just love the pure, raw, worship. I'm as satisfied in a room of 50 as I am with 50,000. It doesn't matter to me, the amount of people. I just love God and love ushering his people to his presence.
I gotta say, as a musician and having even served in that space as a worship pastor or over creative team, having a lead pastor have a heart for worship is critically important. That's why you see that even with Elevation, because that's who Furtick is. Seeing that, I was just even joking with somebody the other day. I felt like if you had to go to Ford City, you almost had to be like a master class musician to be on staff there.
Oh, not at all. Not at all. For me, I would say early on, we just turned 6 a couple of weeks ago. But I say early on, I put emphasis on gifts, and I think I evolved as a leader and matured to really even, make my focus now is character over even talent. We have phenomenal talent. We've had phenomenal talent. Chandler Moore is a product of Forest City. The list goes on and on, of guys who come through or, who call it their home. And so I think talent is just a portion of it. I think our goal is to, in addition to talent, is to just have heart. And so, our musicians are great; they're incredible. Our singers are great and incredible. But I think our emphasis is definitely character.
Mm-hmm. And so, just segueing into that as a pastor, a lot of times, especially. I talk to a lot of friends who have this heart to go into ministry, but they're artists and more in the CCM space. And it's, sometimes that challenge of like, am I a pastor? Am I an artist? Which is, but you walk seamlessly in both of those worlds. It sounds like that heart, what do you think? I'm almost answering your question, but what is it, that thing that tethers you to both worlds, being a pastor and then being this songwriter and artist and creative?
That's a great question. That's an amazing question. I think settling. I want to give an answer. I hope it's not complicated the way it come out. I think early on, I was sharing this with Tasha Leonard, who is like one of my closest friends. But I think early on, I tried to separate the two, and it was like, hey, when I'm at church, I'm PT. Like I'm not Travis Greene. I'm not, I'm not ever singing Made Away. I'm never doing music. And so I drew that line in the sand for a while. I'd say probably for the first 3 years at our church. It made me very uncomfortable to ever even announce there's an album coming out or there's a tour. It made me very uncomfortable because I wanted to have a line in the sand. And God delivered me from that, man. He was like, dude, like you're making your life so much more complicated. Like you are, your life shouldn't be salad. It should be a soup. Like it shouldn't be a bunch of separation and trying to like nitpick the differences. Like you are one guy, you're one package. And my anointing is in that. In the same way as you're able to be at home and be a husband and a father and a friend all under the same roof. Like you could be a pastor and a worshiper and a musician and whatever is necessary. Like it's cool, man. It ain't that deep. Mm-hmm. So it's so much freedom and fun. Tasha came and her and my wife did like a women's night, and there was a vacant organ, and I was like, man, why not? And so like literally, I jumped in with the band, and they were laughing at me because I had my own talk back. It was just but like I jumped in and played organ that whole night, and just I was worshiping and just it was the first time I played organ in church, and oh my God, I can't even tell you how long, but the liberty that, man, I don't care. Like, I don't have to be a pulpit sitter. I don't have to like change who I am. Like, I just am me. It brought freedom to my life, and I think freedom to those around me. And so, we got Travis Greene merch in our lobby, and we got Dr. Jackie merch. We got Forward City merch. We got Tent Revival merch. So you'll see people walk around with a t-shirt with my face on it, or a t-shirt with an album cover, and it's just it's all unto God, man. It's the same anointing. It's the same Jesus. And so that's allowed me just to not, I don't care, man. I might sing, I might preach, whatever comes out is what comes out.
Yeah, I love that answer, man, because even going back to how many instruments do you play? Because I play a few. And so when somebody says, hey, Otto, what do you play? I'm like, well, I'm the same guy, whether I'm, out of the bass player, out of the guitar player. And I love there's no delineation between you, Travis is the pastor, and Travis is the creative. And so for both of us, one question, a couple questions are going to like pastoring a church, a multicultural church. I would think growing up in a military environment that helps.
Oh, absolutely. Am I frozen? Are we okay? Oh, there we go.
Yeah. You're frozen. So I'll start that again. So I would think, kind of growing up the way we did, Otto's dad was in the military, Travis's dad was in the military. Now you're pastoring a church. Did that, I'm sure seeing that multicultural real-time work with people in different spaces, that had a great effect. Did that?
Oh man.
How does it affect how does that inform you pastoring a church now?
Oh man, it informed me just in life. I think the pastoring thing was just natural. We were already doing it. We were pastoring our band before we ever had a congregation. So that wasn't as I think as far as it comes to being multicultural, I'm that guy. I'm Otto, right? I was hired at several churches to bring diversity, to help, to just have a seat at the table, and so one thing that I remember telling one church that brought me in was that I don't like diversity. For me is not just cause and effect. Like, it's just who I am. It's in my makeup. Like, being military, you had to get new friends and you had to learn. When in Rome, that's just what it is. You do as the Romans do. And so for me, skateboarding wasn't an option. It was like, hey man, we moved from a predominantly Black area to an all white area, and it's like they don't want to play throw up tackle, they want to play street hockey. So you got to get it in if you want to have fun. And so for me, I think for me, it helped me. I think my major thing as it pertains to diversity is that for me, like, color is not a big deal, because for me, it's about celebrating differences, not tolerating differences. And what I mean by that, I think many times because of the political climate and a lot of the racial tension, like, we try too hard to, like, I don't know, be politically correct. And what I mean by that, like, we'll act like differences don't exist. All right, we'll be like, I don't see color and we're all the same. And it's like, no, we're not the same. Like, I like more seasoning on my collards than you do. And it's okay. Like, I call them collard greens. You call them collard greens. You know what I mean? Like, I might raise my voice to my kids. You might not. Like, the way that our cultures are just totally different. And there's a lot of things that contribute to that, whether it is through slavery or through our heritage or through just our makeup. And I think it's okay. And for me, I found that even for my staff that's diverse or my church that is diversifying, for me, like, I don't try to tiptoe around. Like, I'll make comments from the stage about, just funny things that's funny to me. Like, like, I'm a Black dude and this is hilarious to me. I make a joke about how my white friends respond to something. And I think for us, I think that makes walls come down. It makes people like, all right, man, I can breathe. Like, it's okay. Like, I'm different. I think differently. My experiences are different, and I don't think one is right or wrong. I mean, we're a few generations removed from things that caused us to be where we are now. Does racism still exist? Of course, but for me, it's not a point of emphasis as much as unity. But I found the route to unity being not ignoring the elephant in the room. Like, if something's funny, it's funny. If something's different, it's different. And that's just how I live.
And I love that because it's even like, especially because I grew up, I'll say this probably till we'll be friends forever, and I'll say the same thing, but there's so many parallels. But like, one thing I noticed, like little things, like in predominantly Black churches, the team is called praise team, typically, and predominantly white church is called the worship team. Same word or same, same it has the same activity, but has different languaging. And so we talk about songs in particular. I want to talk about this record, man, which is fire. I love, first of all, people, if you don't have it, you have to get it, because I wrote down a list. It's a global sounding record. And speaking producer to producer, I love the energies. There's a lot of almost Soweto kind of like African energies, like dun, 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 those kind of things on songs. There's almost some, I live in Nashville, there's some kind of steel guitar things, some other.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I thought I heard. I was okay. Okay, cool.
Banjo, all of it.
Okay. So what, man, what, as a producer, what, you're going through all this, did you like, I hear this, or like, was there a sonic thing that you started with, or was it just like, I want to add this instrument?
I think both. I mean, the way we produce, man, you will have so much fun. My camp consists of my road MD. His name is Brunis Charles. My major producer and engineer, his name is Matthew Edwards, who
Yeah,
you used to know Matt from Israel.
yeah.
And then my church MD, his name is Reggie Rhett. And so it's really a collaboration, really, with all of us, the four of us. And then some of our other musicians, we allow them to express their creativity as well. But the four of us is kind of, we're the think tank, the way it starts. I have an idea. I'll do a demo for it. This is what I'm thinking. It's the key I'm thinking. And then we just add on from there, and people just we just throw stuff at the wall. Like, hey, I'm hearing this, so let's try that, or let's replace this sound, or what would it be like if this was the organ part, or what, all that stuff. And that's the funnest part of the album coming together, because you just have so many different, and then Brunis is Haitian, so you have that entire expression. Matt is worldwide, so you have that expression. Reggie is he's the only one of us that's from South Carolina, so he's a church boy, country church boy, and so you have that expression. And I think the collaboration of all of that is what brings what we do to life.
It felt like my spidey senses were right on just hearing the record. It felt like a concept album. It doesn't feel like a bunch of one. I've done a ton of. Yeah, it's not random. It's not random acts of kindness. It's a lot of albums, especially in the worship lanes, we can do records that have just a collection of songs. This feels like a record that's not just a collection of songs. It feels like it's a concept record. It feels like it's leading you somewhere, even with Dr. Jackie's thing in the middle. That just, it inspires me. It's not just a record I listen to, it's something that motivates me. And so just as a creative, I just want to know, man, what was it, a writing camp? Did it come out of were you guys together and say, hey, we're getting something, you just collected it? Or was it a sermon series? Can you let us behind the curtain?
Yeah. What's interesting is that I'm normally in a I'll just enter a zone, and based off of kind of where that is for me seasonally is what comes out. I think it's that, you know what I mean? So for example, like this idea of like tent revival, a couple years ago, we did, during COVID, we did this thing called tent revival that we did to actually to kind of help us with our building fund. So that idea, that's kind of how it originated. And then from there, we started working on music, and I just had this, I was like, I'm very spiritual, man. Meaning that like I'm spirit led. And I was like, man, you know what? Like I feel like this record is supposed to be called Tent Revival. It's literally how I led, kind of led it. And from there, I started praying to it. And then the Lord told me to study tents in the Bible. And I landed on Exodus 33, which is Moses went to the tent. Every day he'll pitch a tent to meet with the Lord. I saw that verse before, never paid a lot of attention to it. He'll meet with him face to face. The cloud would come down. But then it said he would leave and Joshua would stay. And that screamed at me this time around. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, you mean someone had a greater appetite than Moses? And Moses is Moses. You know what I mean? Like, you got Jesus, you got Abraham, and then you got Moses. Like, Moses is Moses. First 5 books of the Bible, Moses. 10 plagues, Moses. Red Sea part, Moses. Baby in the Nile, Moses. You know what I mean? Like, this is Moses. We're talking about 10 commandments, Moses. So I'm like, man, This dude met with God face to face, and yet his assistant, his aide, the Bible called him his young aide, would stay back at the tent. And that just killed me. I was like, man, we don't know a whole lot about Joshua. We know he's the son of Nun. We know that he shot it at a wall of Jericho. But man, he didn't just arrive overnight. And so this theme of not skipping the tent, this theme of intimacy precedes impact was just in my spirit. And from there, I think a lot of songs just kind of just started coming out organically. It didn't take long. I wrote Watch Him Turn in a Tent Revival in the car from my wife's grandmother funeral on the way driving from that. Both of those songs were written, on my voice memo. And then Stay Here, we wrote, in the studio, just idea, so the songs just from there just started, and I call it like an open portal. I got this idea from Darius Daniels. He says his favorite time to prepare his next message is after the last message. And he says because the portal is open, he's already like vulnerable, already receiving. And so I just get in the zone when it comes to record time. I'm only in the zone. It's a weird thing, man. I'm only in this zone. I mean, as a creative, but I'm in the zone when I'm in the zone. And I don't, once I'm in the zone, it's like a batter, right? Like, when he get in that zone, man, everything gonna be a home run. He in it. And when that portal's open, I get in the zone. It's just, if I sneeze, the song come out. Really, it's supernatural. It's God. Yeah, it's beyond me. But that's how it happens. And then from there, I collaborate with the putting clothes on it. Putting clothes on the body once it just start. I start having babies, and then I'm just like, y'all come help me dress this. Come help me dress this. So that's how it happens. Yeah.
Man, I love that. And I love just hearing even the creative, and thank you for letting us get behind the curtain on the creative process, because it's beautiful to see how we had the final product, but knowing that, like you said, you're in that zone and hearing that it was birthed out of that. And I've read that scripture before, and even as you said that, I'm like, wow, they didn't put two together to see that there was somebody that got to experience more of God in his presence than Moses. And we think Moses has seen it all, the burning bush and everything, and know that Joshua had more of that. And I think that's really the energy that comes from the record. It really, it feels like you captured that. So from a listener standpoint, you definitely give us the feeling like we're on a journey to get deeper and closer to God.
Yeah. Man, that's the whole idea, man. But it's cool, man. It's cool how God does what he does. And he really brought it all home, man. He started kind of giving me the songs and then gave me the scripture. And, it was so cool looking at I had the band and the singers and the staff kind of sit there. And every Wednesday I do what we call a staff devo. And I just preach for 30 minutes every week. So, and I just literally just sit in the chair and just go. And so it's one of them settings, and I read Exodus 33 and everybody's mouth was open. I was like, wait a minute, because at that point I had already started understanding demos and stuff. And then my MD Reggie was just like, dude, this makes sense of everything. What the heck? So it kind of, for him and for, I think the whole band was like, all right, now it intensified, I think, our preparation and the studio sessions, because we had a mark, we had a target. It was like, all right, we know what we're doing. And I think that's why the record feels synchronized like it is, because there was a harmony there for sure.
Well, I don't want to hold you up, but I just got one last question. What are you excited about? I know you just finished the record, but is there something that next, that's burning your spirit that you want to see for the church, for you as a creative, that you can share with us that man, I'm really excited about seeing this next phase, I love watching Serena Williams. Says she didn't retire. She's evolving into the next version of herself. I love that. Even though we are intelligent design believers, we don't believe that God is intelligent design. But what do you feel like this next phase of your ministry? What are you excited about seeing in the next couple of months, years that you can share with us?
Oh man. Really, for me, I think the highlight for me right now is the people of this record, man, like Dinar and Shaquana Iman and Shamanique and Jaleesa. I mean, these guys, JC, these guys are just phenomenal, man. They're great, they're gifted. And so being able to, I mean, I've done it from the beginning. If anybody been tracking with me from the years, I mean, what is 22, 8 years ago, I would putting Chandler on stage, putting him on songs, Dante on songs, what have you. And so I think for me, I get so much joy out of, it's, opening doors or helping other people establish a platform for him. That to me is the highest, other than his presence itself. I don't get a better high than helping position other people to flourish in their purpose. I mean, that's why I'm here. I understand that. I'm a doorkeeper. And so to do that, man, I mean, that's my highlight. I'm going to Africa next week. I'm taking 13 people from, this album, the band, the singers, who, they have never been to Africa. Some of them probably never even left the country, so them having to get their passports and shots and yellow fever card, all this stuff is like, I don't know, man, it's Christmas for me. I've gone to Africa more times than I can count, but being able to take people, into these atmospheres for their first time is like it's my first time all over again. And if I'm honest, probably right before COVID, this whole thing just kind of started getting redundant and a little boring for me. COVID was definitely a reset of like, oh man, the quickest cure for ingratitude is loss. So not being able to go anywhere was like, oh, wait a minute, I actually do miss going like minister. But now I'm like, I don't know, man. I feel I think the evolved version of me is the one who's able to open doors for others. And it's a lot funner than going through my own doors, man. I'm enjoying it.
It reminds me of the scripture where Paul told Timothy, you have many teachers, but few fathers. And in our day and age, you got many influencers, but few fathers. And I can tell that that father's heart's coming out.
Yeah.
See, sometimes it's more fun to see Christmas through your kids.
Absolutely.
Than being a kid. So
absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly where I am, man. And I'm enjoying it. It's definitely making all of it fun.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the time, and I'm excited. So it sounds like we got some new music kind of with Dinar and some of the crew, some of the guys in there, and I guess guys like Chandler and Dante, they're doing okay. So
I think they're right.
Yeah. So thank you for that. We're really excited to hear about some new stuff coming out, but more importantly, really want everybody to really, you don't have it. I'm telling you, the Tent Revival record is amazing. And I'm glad that you're going to Africa because it's got energy that's global, man. It really does. So glad that you can be part of this, and looking forward to more times together. We'll talk soon.
Absolutely, my friend. Thank you.